Welcome to the Shared Practices podcast. I am here with what feels like a good friend. We've kind of interacted with each other in different spaces over the years, and I didn't know the full story. I'm actually blown away before this interview even started. So I think you guys are going to enjoy the conversation that we have here today. I have with me Cory Pinegar from Reach on the line. Excited to talk about a personal favorite topic these days, which is hiring amazing talent from other places other than the United States and getting them to take massive workloads off of you and your team, your dental practice, and really deal with kind of the labor problems we have here in the United States in some creative ways. So, Cory, welcome to the show.
Rich, thanks for having me on, man.
This is really cool. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself for the audience and Reach. And beforehand, you were telling me the origin story, and I'd love to hear how this has grown and evolved on air. But yeah, tell us a little bit about you first.
Yeah. So I'm Cory Pinegar. I'm our founder here at Reach. And for the worst and best uses of it, just a born and bred entrepreneur. I, got my first chance, as, Richard just mentioned, to buy a business when I was 22 years old and fell in love with the adrenaline and pressure of it. And so for the last 9 years, have been doing the same grind in different industries and in different ways, but thoroughly love what I do because we get to solve real problems and win games and build businesses as a team.
Well, I love it. Tell us a little bit about, what are you into? What do if and when you ever had free time other than build businesses, what do you like to do?
I am a tennis and golf player in the
Okay.
summer. Not good. Wish I was good. And then a skier in the winter.
Okay. Awesome.
The good old
Well,
Utah trifecta.
right. You get the weather and you've got the mountains, you've got all three. Well, I'm in Indiana. Moved from Utah when I was 11, and I've missed my mountains ever since. Midwest living is a whole heck of a lot cheaper than Utah now. There's all the
It
Silicon
is
slopes.
crazy what's happened
It's
to.
insane. Prices are out of control. Or, compared to California, East Coast, West Coast, Utah is now like creeping up with those guys. But Indiana, I miss my mountains. So I'm glad you love them and that you're taking full advantage.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, tell us a little bit about Reach. Tell us about what Reach does right now because it's evolved over the years.
Yeah. You said something interesting there. Obviously, businesses change over time. It's kind of the innovator's dilemma that you can have something successful years ago, but if you are not consistently changing, you go back to IBM. IBM was one of your top 10 biggest companies in the world, and they got too addicted to mainframe servers. So they didn't innovate. And having owned this business for the last 8 years, dentistry has wildly changed. You think about, before my time, you had your solution reaches and weaves starting, where you could do emails to say, "Hey, Rich, happy birthday from Pinegar Dental." And people thought it was novel. And then you had texting come out. And then you could get a call from a patient and it would pop their name up. And then you got online scheduling with local med. And now we're, in the days of labor costing a ton across the United States. And so what we do here at Reach is we kind of help people solve three main buckets, which is one of them being they know they're missing a lot of opportunity. You've got $1 million or $2 million in unscheduled treatment, or you've got 30 or 40% of your phone calls going unanswered. You want to capitalize it. So we can help by hiring a virtual team member. And those are just a couple examples. Number two is if you look at, I read a report the other day, since the early 2000s, the fee schedules and payouts from insurance compared to cost increases in the United States have marginally gone up while your cost of operating a practice is drastically up. If you think about it, a dentist disclose more than ever because your ceiling is not going up at that same level. So the margins are not the same. And so, to be very candid, hiring internationally is cheaper than it is in the United States. And so you look at the average delta between hiring a virtual team member versus hiring in the US, it puts about $24,000 back where you can pay down your student loans You can renovate your practice. You can pay your office manager more. And then the third area is a lot of people are having a hard time hiring people who are sticking or people who are engaged in their job. And so, really, when I look at it, virtual assistants is like the theory of going and buying a car. It gets you to where you need to go. You don't hire a virtual assistant or a virtual team member just because, but the pain points that we address is cost effective needs, missed opportunity needs, and then just the hiring challenges I think we all have faced since COVID.
And having done this both with shared practices over the years. I mean, it's funny. I've had personal assistants that weren't overseas for years and years and years now. So like having an assistant who can help you with things, take things off your plate, manage your emails has been essential for me just to function. But then at shared practices, we started to hire some really amazing overseas talent, and I'm doing the same now with my new project and the things I'm building. It's funny to me to see we're kind of lazy in the United States. It's really hard to find just hard workers who are reliable, consistent, all in, appreciative, and like care at the same level. And I have found the opposite to be true overseas. I keep finding really intelligent people who care, who are all in, who are very grateful, and are much more cost effective. And you can pay well, you can be competitive, and take care of these people. My wife heard how much I was paying for a few of my team members abroad, and I'm like, "Hun, this is like top of the salary bracket. Like lawyers and orthopedic surgeons are making more than them, but like they're doing
We
well."
have, we have over 100 dentists in other countries that are on our team.
Wow. Yeah. So the not triage. What are they? Arbitrage of the salaries in other countries and the conversion rate, the dollar rate, um, really creates an opportunity for us to find good people and put them to work in ways that are pretty amazing and allows us to take advantage of a global workforce and even really become part of our team. Like they don't have to be this kind of faceless person who you don't know and they're just doing stuff behind the scenes. Um, like it's really fun to build a culture that extends internationally, and doing this in a dental office setting. It's funny because I'm doing this in a non dental office setting, and I'm kind of like figuring things out as I go along. But man, if I was doing this in a clinical setting, it would be a whole nother ball of wax, and I wouldn't have a lot of time. I have time right now to invest in my VAs and train them up, and like my business is evolving. Whereas in a dental office, like I can't take someone who knows nothing about dentistry and is overseas and give them stuff to do and like set up processes. I would need help to in order to like take this amazing person and help them be productive and helpful to my practice. And I think that's where, because I've had dentists ask me like, how much is a VA? How do you do this? How do you hire them? And I'm like, well, I kind of did it through my brother-in-law's company. It's like not a thing that I figured out on my own. I had help to do this, and I wouldn't have been able to do this on my own. And so that's where people like you come in and have figured out some of these solutions so that dentists aren't having to invent the wheel every time.
And you look at it like outsourcing. I actually don't love the word, but the concept resonates with everyone, just like the term virtual assistant. I look at them more as team members. And I think you nailed that really early on, that creating a real relationship here matters. But our goal at Reach is to make that process easier. If, think of yourself 5 years ago, if someone said, "Hey, Rich, go hire me 5 people in Brazil," you would have been like, "Okay, you want me to get on a flight and
Right.
go hook up my Venmo down there and make it work?" Our goal is to make it easy and to find the right people. We have, a team, well over into the thousand today. And
Wait. So say that again. Reach has 1,000 team members.
yes,
Okay. Is that including the people that are kind of being employed in these other dental offices, or is that like your core
like
like
our virtual team.
Yeah,
Oh no, that's like the vast majority of that is our virtual team members who work for these
got it. In all these
practices.
offices. How many offices, like, does an office tend to have, like, 1 or 2? Like, what's the average number of team members that an office, uses through you guys?
So DSOs are very different. If you looked at total number of locations, because we've
Yeah,
got some larger groups that we cover, we probably have more locations than team members. But if you go
okay.
to a solo practice, they on average have about 1.3 team members. So some kind of flex up. And there's two main areas: the insurance verification and revenue cycle management is a common bucket to get the
Okay.
resource help in. I mean, we all know insurance verification is just like the ultimate time suck. And then the phone call side, inbound phone calls, treatment, unscheduled treatment follow up, recare follow up, handling all the text messages. We integrate into Mango, we integrate into Weave, where they can be picking it up in Brazil, Argentina, El Salvador, and your patients don't have an idea.
Yeah, and the technology has caught up to the point where I people think like, okay, how am I going to set this up? How do I do this? How hard is this going to be? HIPAA and all these things. And that's where I wouldn't want to have to figure this out on my own from scratch. I would want someone who's like, here's the HIPAA compliant way to do it. Here's the way to integrate it with your practice management software. So I'm assuming that's all the kind of stuff that you just unlock. You've got the
Yeah,
ability to take.
we're the employer of record in these home countries. So we're, doing the proper legal filings. We're looking at legal risks. We're helping people with all of the proper documentation. These are not under the table payments. And I was showing Rich before we went on air that in the last 30 days, we have 30,000 inbound job applications. And so you can really hire the right people. And from having done it for a long time, we've hired great people. We've also got it wrong
Yeah,
plenty. And so we're able to go to practices and say, okay, you want to hire someone to do insurance verification, not just let's hire the technical skill, but what's the soft skills and personality that are going to work well with you and actually work well with the road, with the practice. And then we can also help with the technical setup, the HIPAA compliance. Every practice who signs up with us, we complete a BAA. So it's really about making the process easier and avoiding the potholes that you can fall into when you're kind of innovating and doing it yourself for the first time.
I love it. Well, okay, so let's dive into those specific applications. So, you mentioned insurance verification, and you said revenue. You said something else there, and
Revenue
anytime
cycle
that
management.
say it again. Sorry.
Revenue cycle management.
Revenue cycle management. That's like a term that I'm like, okay, break that down for dentists. What would a regular dentist hear that as?
Yeah. So revenue cycle management would be the billing side. So the claims, the submissions, the patient billing front, all of that. Where, if I were to make an analogy, and I'm a very visual learner myself, when I think about a dental practice, if you had a back office within it, anything that you're doing there is what a virtual team member could do.
Hmm.
You don't need, and arguably you shouldn't have your front desk picking up the phone calls, waiting on hold with Delta Dental for 40 minutes to verify that last second patient, working on claims and submissions, following up with patients and their billing. Your staff should be building relationships. You walk in and it's like, hey, Rich, how are your kids? How was your trip over to Europe? Those things are what is going to differentiate you. But we're often sucked into someone walks in, you want to have a conversation with them, but you're stuck at the same time. We've all walked into the medical practice where there's a sweet person at the front and they're like, give me 1 second. And it ends
Right.
up being 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah. So 100%. And it's funny you say back office because we really don't typically have a true back office because we don't have the space. Like, unless we're a large practice, the front office is the front office, and you fit everything there. And especially as you're small and you don't have a large team, you're not a multi-doctor office. A lot of these roles are shared between, Caitlin, our coach, shared practices. We've done, and co-host of mine, we've done whole episodes on really there's 4 roles in the front, and we just tend to merge them and split them in different ways. Um, these back office tasks are the ones that I think, because they're not on fire typically, like, a patient coming in the front door, something with the schedule, like these are the things that both are more likely to get slipped through the cracks because they're harder to audit. They're harder to like see the backlog. They're harder for the team members to get done. Um, and they also tend to just pile up. Like it's just a never ending pile of insurance verification, of accounts receivable to follow up on. And therefore we're missing opportunities. Stuff is falling through the cracks. So, talk
You're
to us a
saying,
little. Yeah, go for it.
yeah, this gets me excited because having been in the industry for 8 years as an outsider, there's a common tune that is beat that, oh, you want to grow, new patients, new patients, new patients. And I think that is a vital part. But you said something, there is not great visibility into how much people are leaving behind or missing. What I think of when I think of dentistry, if you took a funnel or a filter in your home and you drilled some holes through it, people are bleeding out more than they could be aware. I'll walk through in a second why I think that actually exists, but like to give some insights on the data, because we see this for thousands of locations. The average number, not the extreme, but the average number of missed calls last year for dental practices was 32%.
Hmm.
That number is also not factoring in outside of closed hours.
Hmm.
That's not, someone calling at 5 a.m. or 8 p.m. Like people are bleeding out. 30% of your 32% of your new patients don't get picked up. And guess what? If a new patient calls and they don't have the phone picked up, there's a 14% chance they leave a voicemail. And that's kind of the breadcrumb. We're like, oh, yeah, we only have a voicemail this morning. Well, statistically, that means you probably have a lot more missing. Second example on what people are leaving behind, and there's a lot more than this, is the average number of unscheduled treatment that sits in an average practice that is not followed up on is $2.4 million.
Hmm.
And so people are sitting with gold bars surrounding them. That also betters patient care.
And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to follow up on these things, to be paying attention to them, to audit and check and comb through and call and text and email and get patients on the books. Like it takes time. It's not one of these like quick automated processes. And so the bandwidth to do this is just something that, while running the rest of the practice, the team just doesn't typically have the bandwidth. Um, so, I mean, let's talk through. Let's like I want to go through one by one. Um, Insurance verification, like that is, I think it's one of the simplest things to understand, and is like people, the team is just so
So
excited.
what you outsource first.
Yes. So what does that look like? If I'm like, hey, Cory, like, I need someone. Can I get someone to help me with insurance verification? What does that process look like?
Yeah. So the reason that we provide dedicated team members, you get the same. Let's just say I worked for Rich. He would get Cory on camera every single day. There's 200,000 dental practices in the United States. We all have Open Dental, EagleSoft, Dentrix, whatever it could be. And then we all do things slightly different. Fee for service, or you could be entirely Medicaid based. And then there's the bandwidth of all of those things in between. And so the reason that we provide dedicated team members is they know how your eligibility form works and your extensive verification works and where you upload your PDFs. And the reason we do that is you get better quality while still getting cost effectiveness. I think over the years, outsourcing has gotten, deservedly so, a bad rap because it's this idea of I'm going to fax over my insurance verifications and I'm going to come back in the next day, they're done, but they're done at 70% quality, not to the way my practice wants. And it just creates more hassle for me and my staff. And so when a practice comes and says, hey, we need help on insurance verifications, it's sitting down and saying, what hours are they working? What are the soft skills and personality things that generally work, the communication styles within your practice? And then it's just as I said, we individually source. We got 30,000 applications last month. So we can go look at all of these different check boxes we get through testing them, and then saying, this is the person we believe, or this is the myriad of people we believe could be right for Richard and his team. And then we bring back 3 to 5 people or more for you to interview. And then you eventually say, okay, Jonathan or Corey or Diana is right for me. And we bring them on, and then they get integrated into your team. So day in and day out, they're working in your same software. You can call them and say, hey, we've got an emergency patient coming in at 4:30 today. Can you go ahead and get their insurance verified? And it's just another addition to the team that doesn't get swallowed into the chaos of being in the practice.
Hmm. I want to hear, like, okay, if I'm a one doctor, two hygienist practice, we've got say 1,300 to 1,600 active patients. Say we've got 20 to 30 new patients a month. Um, how much, and we're pretty heavily in network, so we're not, obviously that's why we need insurance verification. um, how do you tell how much of a person you need? Do you always hire one full-time person and then fill them up to tasks that are to be done in the office, or do you end up hiring one person's bandwidth up to a certain point to take care of this task in your practice?
Everyone takes a different amount of time for different tasks. The best way to think about what you're going to need is how long would it take an experienced member of your team to do the daily insurance verifications you need, or how many, phone calls. And it's easier to quantify on phone calls, but everyone's verification form is wildly different. The way they upload it, the level of detail that they upload it, so on and so forth, the amount of daily changes you're facing on your calendar. And so there is not a speed efficiency. I wish, we could come out and say, like, wow, our people are 2x faster than a really good people in dentistry. That's not the case. Like, we're one for one,
Right.
pound for pound, a good
High
person with it.
quality,
So,
same amount of time. The getting on the phone and doing the online checks, like, don't really change. If a person is doing it, it is what it is.
yep. And so that's where we can come back and say, hey, it's a 30-hour a week role, or it's a 20-hour a week role. And our goal at Reach is to get out there and do a good job, to relieve the team, to relieve the dentist, so that they can say, oh, wait, I can be more focused in with the patients in front of me or in my chair. And then that relationship grows from there. You're providing profitability, but at the same time, you're providing peace of mind.
Yeah. Yeah, there is this, like, overwhelm and anxiety when there's stuff in your practice that's not getting done that should be getting done, and then who do I follow up with? And we're constantly having this back and forth of, like, okay, there's missed insurance verifications, and I have to audit this team member, and we're having the same conversation over and over. And do we make another hire because obviously this is too much for that person? So that stress and peace of mind, just like, gone. This is handled. This is taken care of, is really, really nice. Like, it's just nice to have stuff that you still got to audit. You still got to, like, work with this person and make sure it's done well, but you're not split attention having someone just juggle this. So I want to now get into the first thing people are thinking is, like, okay, what's the cost? What's the cost savings? How much for insurance verification? Because there are different tiers of, like, insurance verification might not be interacting with patients. And so the same skills of, like, being able to call a patient with, like, basically a native accent English is not required, and therefore maybe a different candidate for that. So talk to us about how the pricing works on hires like this.
One of my theories as an entrepreneur is this: simplicity is key. It's easy to
Okay,
overcomplicate your business. And so we have one standard level of pricing, and it's just a
cool.
little above $11 an hour. Now, if someone comes and they want to hire an accountant or something a little bit more senior technical, obviously that's a price tier above. But when you look at inbound and outbound calls and communication, insurance verification, revenue cycle management, having an admin assistant, it's all at that $11 an hour tier.
Okay, so I get to tell this story now. I didn't know if I was going to get to tell this story. So I hopped on a Facebook Live in a prominent dental Facebook group. It was DIG, and Sunny had a couple guys on from some VA thing, And I was like, "Oh yeah, VAs are amazing." And I was just kind of like dropping in chat. I am like an annoying person to have hop on one of your lives if someone ever does a Facebook live, because I'm just gonna be like typing away and adding comments. And I was like, "Oh yeah, like you can find them for X amount of money," which is like if you go to people direct, if you're like posting on the Philippines job boards
Yep.
and screening and hiring them yourself and managing them directly, training them up, which is everything I've done. And and so it's even less than that. Like you
It's
you
everywhere.
are providing a lot of value and service in what you're doing, and I would not recommend dentists try and do what I'm doing. So I threw out this sub $10 range of money that I'm paying for my really high quality VAs out of the Philippines, and their price for VAs through this service was like $18 to $19 an hour, which I was like, that's like a regular U.S. employee, and they were like trying to kind of spin it and pitch it in different ways of like, oh well, you get this and this and this and this. I don't know how well they're actually selling or scaling this, but I felt really bad for kind of like gutting them and being like, I found people for $6 an hour, and they're over here charging 18 to 19. But I was like, man, that is quite the markup for what they're doing. Um, so I'm really glad that there is still a significant cost savings compared to pretty much anyone you can find who's skilled in the United States that you would trust to work at the front desk.
And
Um,
there's an important call out too here that I don't think people factor in, that when we all started our business, we all operated on the back of a napkin, being like, okay, I'm going to pay myself 40% of what I collect, and rent's going to cost me 1,500, and then I'll pay people $17 an hour. But there's all of our fees and taxes within the United States. So when you factor it all together, I think it's like $3,950 is the average dental front desk total salary plus benefits package. And we have a calculator where people can look it up by their individual state. And so then when you compare, you've got about $2,000 a month in savings when you add in the important deductions or additional things that we pay for as a business. And $24,000 a year, like, I know we get on these Facebook groups. You and I have been in this world for a minute, and there's people touting their watches and their new cars. It's a struggle for a lot of people,
yeah.
and a business can have really good seasons and really challenging seasons. And so this can allow you to pay your office manager who's been with you for 10 years, give you that raise without breaking the bank, or to
Or finding a good office manager, finally being able to afford and hire appropriately for an office manager.
exactly. And so I think when you strip down the math, and then let's even just go a layer deeper, because you guys focus so well on the business side, is what would you say you're seeing as like the average solo practice multiple right now
Multiple as in like what they're selling
on
for.
EBITDA? Yeah.
Um, it just depends really where kind of they fall in terms of like the owner dentist versus who's like practicing full time versus we've grown it up and built it up. Um, Once you're north of 2 million of revenue and you've got 500 to a million of EBITDA, things jump up. But I think 4 to 6 is a range that I've seen for a GP office.
I mean, if we just strip it back and say, let's just take five, $24,000 times five, you're adding $125,000 to your enterprise or sale value in the future. So these are meaningful, non existent moves where you can support your team. When I think about business, the things that I've learned over the last 8+ years is you have to create sustainability.
Yeah.
And so this isn't about resource depriving your team, or else you just have staff turnover. Resource depriving yourself as a doctor, it means you just burn out. But then you also need to run a profitable practice. And these actually pull that lever where you're not leaving your patients with unanswered calls. You're not burning out your team where they're checking people in, taking payments, following up on unpaid bills. And then the crazy thing about being a doctor, especially in dentistry, is you're a clinician from 8 to 5 or whatever it may be. And then in your outside hours, you are the CEO of your group. And that's what breaks and burns out so much more. So when you can have a stable supporter doing core functions within your team, it's a win across the board.
Well, and you mentioned the salaries of dentists. I actually recorded a reel that I still haven't released yet as of today about this, where the average range of money that an associate can make is like 100 to 300K. You know, it's like this is kind of the range, maybe 150 to 300. Um, However, the range of salaries an owner doc makes is anywhere from like negative a couple 100,000 to 500,000 plus. And there's more dentists than would care to admit it that, you know, and we bias entrepreneurial and shared practices. We try and set people up with a lot of success. But a lot of people listening to, even to this, are not doing fantastic. They're making 100, 150K as owners. And so to add $24,000 to the actual take home, to the bottom line, in terms of like cost savings of, do I hire a team member, my next front desk team member here in the United States, or do I do it abroad? That right there is massive, especially for those owners who are struggling the most. So I think that's the challenge with these Facebook groups is you see the full range, and there's this large group who are pretty stressed and pretty burned out from the burden of ownership, and their margins are not great, and it is hard to be an owner. And so stuff like this can really then free up marketing dollars, can allow you to pay yourself, can allow you to kind of notch the stress levels down just a little bit, because you can begin to breathe and start to build up some money in the bank account and all those things. So this is massive. So when you said the tax savings and the benefit savings, I was like, oh yeah, that was their pitch on the like $18-19 per hour. Was like, oh, but you don't have to pay them benefits and the taxes, the payroll taxes and all of that. And that was like the only savings. Um, but I don't feel bad bringing up the $6 an hour, because you have to address that head on all the time. Of like, someone's like, well, I heard I can go and find someone for X amount. The reality is like, yeah, yeah, you can go for it. Like, like,
And eventually just in these other countries, there's all the legalities there too. And there's HIPAA compliance. And, you know, as you grow a business, something that we all learn is to stay in our lane
yeah.
with what we're really good at, like a core focus. You look at In and Out, they make burgers really well. Raising Cane's, they do breaded chicken tenders really well. They're billion-dollar companies. You make the most when you're producing dentistry, coaching your associates. And so
Not backwards engineering. How do I hire someone from overseas, and then how do I train them, and how do I HIPAA compliant? How do I safeguard the IT? All of that. So I couldn't agree more. I do want to get back to more specifics of like, okay, insurance verification, number one. What's the second thing that people outsource?
what's most common for us and where we differ is most of our teams out of Latin America. And so we're getting people from that same time zone with Spanish and English. As we all know, the Spanish population in the United States is vastly growing. And so the number two thing, or probably actually the number one, even though insurance verifications is the most, is where you should outsource the most, probably what differentiates us at Reach is the phone call side, because you
Mm.
can get a very soft or non-existent accent, and you can get that Spanish and English. And just like we talked about when you mentioned the data, you got to pick up the phone calls. People are missing a ton. And then you look at the amount that needs to be followed up in confirmation calls and unscheduled treatment. It's a really easy area to pick up dollars and patients that are left behind.
And this is a big deal. So we set up a call center for SPG. We had people from Zimbabwe, we had people from South America, we had people in different places, and patients are accent sensitive. My wife, I tell people, or I joke with her that she has accent blindness. Like as soon as someone has an accent, she just can't understand what they're saying. And we were going to a comedian on Saturday. We're driving across town. StubHub and Ticketmaster aren't syncing up. She's like, I can't reset my Ticketmaster account. She's like, I think someone hacked my account because the phone number it's going to is the wrong phone number. So we end up on the phone with this poor call center guy from the Philippines at 4 a.m. his time. I reminded her, I'm like, he's helping you out at 4 a.m. So, be nice to this guy. And she can't understand him for the life of her. She's getting emotional and crying because, we set up all the like childcare. We're trying to go across town and it's stressful. And she thinks we're going to miss our concert. She thinks our account's been hacked. And like, he's patiently helping her through. But she's like, what's he saying? I can't understand. I can't understand. I can't understand. So having someone who Spanish and English are pretty dang similar. And you shared with me that the one of the programs that you guys use for recruiting is the BYU Pathways program, which I served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Los Angeles, East Los Angeles, in the ghetto of LA, speaking Spanish. And our missionaries tend to get pretty dang fluent pretty quick. Like, yo hablo español y lo hablo muy bien, pienso que sí, pero otros me tal vez decir diferente. I have a decent accent for a white man. And I just, leaned in and loved Spanish and learned Spanish. And so a lot of these missionaries came from Latin America and they learned English. They came to the United States. They went to other English speaking places and their English is fantastic. On top of America being the cultural center of the world, a lot of the young people growing up these
Music,
days,
movies, YouTube.
everything they're consuming, like 90% of everything they consume online is in English. And so you get this next generation who grew up with the internet, who grew up with all of our apps, TV shows, everything, and then send them on a 2-year mission where they get to like learn the language every single day and apply it in an immersive environment, and that accent disappears pretty quick.
And you said something when we got on. There is a level of engagement and work ethic in other countries around the globe right now that is exceptional. Our base salary in Brazil puts you in the top 25% of earners countrywide. So you can hire really good people who are motivated, engaged, and going to stick around.
I feel like right now I'm the lowest performing employee in my new company that I've started in Next Level Fathers. I'm like, they're all working harder and better than me, and I'm like trying to catch up and like uh, match their work ethic, which is truly inspiring. Um, it's really cool. It's really cool to like I can't get excited enough for what it's like to grow with team members that are overseas and take things off your plate and just make everyone's lives better in your practice. Like, you just get to grow and scale in awesome ways and be more efficient in the things you're doing and not have to take on all these extra costs. So if someone is interested in talking with your team, figuring out if this is right for their practice. Which, by the way, shared practices, we're working with you guys. You are at our events. Our clients are working with you guys. So this is not just, we don't tend to bring people on the podcast that we haven't vetted and verified pretty thoroughly. Where do people go to learn more about you guys?
Yeah, if people want to learn more, our website obviously is our best way to do that. And it's just www.getreach.co. And I'm sure we can link it in the show notes, but it's been awesome to be here today. I hope people found this educational. And one thing that I think a lot about is we're in a world of AI right now. And so people wonder, like, how does it all slide and work together? And I think your cutting edge going forward is using automation and AI in the areas you can and having those cost effective and engaged team members. I think something, and obviously I'm tainted here, so I want to asterisk my own comment. But I think what's going to become the differential or the cutting edge for dental practices going forward is empathy. And
Mm.
so using automation where you have it, we all, because we work in dentistry all day long, can get numb to what we do. This is scary and real for a lot of people, whether their tooth has fallen out or they've had pain or they need to go to dentures. And so allowing that online scheduling, that texting, that the low hanging fruit that doesn't need the empathy and connection is where we should use it. It's the right way and it's where the world's heading, but then still having that real human team behind it, I think is going to become that lethal combo.
That's really cool. Well, I really appreciate you, Corey, coming on. And literally after we hang up, I'm going to be booking an appointment to talk with you again and learning more about your team and what you do. So, big endorsement for me. Really grateful for your time. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. We'll talk to you next time on the Shared Practices podcast.